Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, a chaos coordinator, one chief shenanigator, geeking out over science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guest, Mr. Richard Oh, heck, I should ask before we started.
we we forgot to review Paolinelli.
Remember, Paolinelli.
Paolinelli. There you go.
I feel like I should be ordering some pasta from you.
Yeah. A little pizza on the side and some wine, and you'll be set.
All right. Do you get all fanatical about people that do weird things with pasta, like run it under cold water or put pineapples on their pizzas?
I have to admit that I actually put pineapple on my pizza, so I'm probably going to be voted off the Italian island after tonight. No, yeah. Oddly enough, being Italian and my grandfather was a chef, pasta and I'm not a fan. So I tend to go find the Mexican restaurants, and the family just looks at me and thinks I'm adopted or something. But no, I mean, you do what you need to do with pasta to make it taste good. That's all that matters.
I mean, I had Mexican for dinner tonight, so you can't beat a soft taco, my friend.
Oh, no, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Taco Tuesdays every day, even when it's Friday. I'm also a sucker for some good nachos.
I'm a fanatic about chili rellenos. We go to a new restaurant. We go to a new Mexican restaurant. First thing I ask, do you have that? And if you do, how do you prepare it? And I'm finding in the Midwest, they prepare it by wrapping it in either egg roll paper or in a flour tortilla and deep frying it. And if you want to see my face start twitching like a maniac, tell me that's how you're going to make my food, because that's not the way to do those.
The other one I like is the white sauce they give you when you dip. They give you the red tomato dip, the salsa, and then they get that white sauce that you get. I don't know, maybe that's an East Coast thing where it's like almost like a spicy ranch almost, but it's not ranch. I don't know what it's called.
Queso.
No, I don't think it's cheese.
Really? Okay.
I know the spicy white sauce I'm thinking about, and I'll remember it after the show because I've done the research on it. It actually started at a local Chili's restaurant in Norfolk, Virginia, and then it just spread. But it's a white sauce, and it just got a little bit of a kick.
Huh.
I don't know what's in it though. Man, I'm gonna have to look that up. We're gonna have to do a whole episode where we just dive into food. I guess we're gonna get in and become the food cast after all.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm down with you, man. If the apocalypse comes and I can't have a taco, it's time just to nuke it all.
Yep. Be done with it.
Because that's not a world I want. I mean, I don't mind, the leather mankini or Mad Max or whatever. But if I can't have a taco, it's all over.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm right there with you.
Tacos and coffee, and I'm good to go. I will radiate with the best mutants in the nuclear apocalypse.
There you go.
So, all right. So before we get started, we do have to do the religion questions. Are you ready for this, Richard?
I am ready. Fire away.
All right. Stargate, Babylon 5, or Battlestar Galactica?
Oh, it's got to be Babylon 5.
Okay. All right. What is it about Babylon 5 that speaks to you?
Well, it was really the first series that we encountered. And I know a lot of people try to say Star Trek: The Next Generation, but with Babylon 5, that was a series that every week they were building up. They would have an individual story in there, but there was also slowly building up to what they were getting to by the end of a given season. And the writing is what really caught me. The characters, the way they developed the characters. My two favorite characters are Jakar and Malari, because of the character arc that they had. They both started when they both started. You're like, I don't think I like either one of these guys, but at the end of it, in my mind, they're the two best characters in the entire series, and especially Jakar, because he really has the biggest arc and the biggest growth. He goes from just being this maniac that wants to wipe out the Centauri, and at the end he's kind of the I don't know, voice of reason, but he's kind of the person who's like, let's lead humanity. Let's lead all these races to better times. So that's what really caught me, was the way the characters were developed over the 5-year run. It was just a great series from start to finish.
Okay, that's fair. If they redid it, would you want them to refilm it or just touch up the original with modern CGI they could add to the effect?
I would rather they just take the original shows and redo the CGI as best they can. That was really the only complaint, is that, but back then they really didn't have the capability that we have now for CGI and whatnot. So I would rather they just kind of remaster some of the special effects where they can, and kind of dress it up there. Because if they try to reshoot it with so many of the original stars no longer with us, I don't think you catch that same vibe or the same magic that it had back then. So I would rather just see they kind of update the special effects and leave it be.
The other option would be take the same location and then bring it forward into the future. New, same set, same world, new storyline. But I don't trust Hollywood not to muck that up.
Oh no. And plus, I mean, they gave Babylon 5 that big send off at the end of the series. That to me, the last episode was perfectly done as far as how you close out a series. It just, everything, all the storylines were tied off. I really don't see how they can do anything with it that would even begin to rise to the same level. So I would just rather they just leave it, and maybe like they did with Star Trek, they kind of updated the special effects where they could.
Okay. All right. And because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we have Conan the Barbarian, Lady Hawk, or Red Sonja.
Lady Hawk. That is one of the most underrated films, in my mind, and I get it. The soundtrack that went with that movie was a bad choice, but just the story overall, um, the actors were perfect for their roles. Um, so yeah, I definitely would go with Lady Hawk over the other two.
Okay, that's fair. I liked all of them, so there were no wrong answers. So
There you go.
One of the crying shames of adulthood, of growing up, is we stop asking each other the important questions. So we do aim to bring that back. And I'm going to ask you, sir, what is your favorite dinosaur?
Brontosaurus.
Oh, go on. Tell us why.
It was my favorite when I was in, all the way back in the before times in kindergarten. We had a couple of days where we were focusing on dinosaurs, and everybody's like, "Oh, the T Rex," and "Oh, the pterodactyls," and just something about the Brontosaurus just kind of appealed to me back then, and it's stayed my favorite dinosaur all the way.
So loyalty, I can dig it.
It takes a lot to get me to bail out on you. So the Brontosaurus hasn't done anything to deserve being ditched over. So yeah, the Brontosaurus definitely is my favorite.
Okay. Are you still a fan of dinosaurs, or did you outgrow that?
Yeah, I do like going when we go to the museums, take my grandkids to the museum, and there's dinosaurs on display. It's really cool to walk through. Oddly enough, the town we lived in before we moved up here, they actually have a dinosaur museum in town,
Oh,
because
cool.
they found a dinosaur on a hill decades ago. They named the hill. I mean, they really stretched for this, Dinosaur Hill, and they took the bones and they kind of got them cleaned up. They kept digging. I guess they're still finding dinosaur bones out there. So they have the museum in there, and it's really a nice little exhibit. You can see what they've dug up. They've gotten some that they brought in from other areas. They do have an animatronics. I think it's a velociraptor. I think. Anyway, you'll be walking along, and he's just standing there, and as you get close enough, the sensor goes off, and he'll kind of start screaming at you and moving at you. Um, but yeah, it was fun to go through and see what they've got, see what they've dug up, and apparently the town was named after the dinosaur, or the dinosaur was named after the town. I never did find out exactly what the order was on that one, but if you're ever in Western Colorado, it's a little town called Fruta, and they've got a dinosaur museum. You ought to give it a check. See, we
Okay.
talk food and travel here. I'm multitasking tonight.
Yeah, well, you were in Colorado, right? Back in the
Yeah,
day before you moved.
yeah,
In Colorado, you're not too far from Utah, where they found the Utah raptor.
yes, that is true.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, you've got local connections to dinosaurs up there.
yeah. In fact, I think there's a town north of Fruta called Dinosaur. So I'm assuming they found something up there that you know lent the reason to name the town Dinosaur. Never got up there, but you know, who knows? Who knows what they found up that way?
I know a lot of people, when they get a lot of, FU money, they want to tour the globe. I'd like to just go all over the US. We've got so much here. I feel
Yeah.
like I could go, run out of money before I run out of America to see.
Well, the odd thing with my dad being in the drilling business as I was growing up, with the exception of the Southeast, I've been all over the place in this country. So I've already seen all this stuff. I do need to go down and check out the Southeast one of these days. So, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, I'm coming eventually. I'll get down there.
I mean, I still have parts of Virginia where I live I haven't seen. Like, I need to go see the Natural Bridge, and there's Black Snake Meadery in the mountains that I got to check out just so I can try them all. Rumor has it, if you take a tour, they'll let you have samples.
Okay.
And, that's one way to find out what you like, right?
There you go.
I've been interested in finding out, like, learning about meat and actually trying it since I watched 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas, and he had that scene where he drank mead because he couldn't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Mead was honey, and so it was okay under Islam. I don't know if that's actually true about Islam, but it was good for the movie.
Yeah, yeah. One thing about mead, don't let it sit in the refrigerator. Yeah, don't let it sit in the refrigerator too long, because our bottle we forgot all about, and it got pushed in the back, and I found it, and it had crystallized.
So could you eat the crystals, like put them over ice cream or something? I don't know.
I couldn't even get the bottle to open. It had sealed up that much. It's like, okay, just in the trash with you.
Well, if you reuse the bottles, I suppose you could just let it thaw out some.
I don't know. We started to, and it kind of looked weird, and we just figured, we don't need a trip to the hospital today, and we just sent
one bottle wasn't worth it in the end.
No, my curiosity has its limits.
Yeah, this one, I'm right there with you. Like, you know what an amphora is? The teardrop shaped clay pots.
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay. I'm probably mispronouncing it. They found some of those in the Baltic area, because if you get below a certain depth, there's no oxygen in the water up there, so it's preserved a lot of shipwrecks from antiquity, and so they found like jars of cargo stuff that were being shipped all over, and you've been able to open those and actually find those, and some of what they found in there is alcohol, and I would be the guy to be willing to try it, and you sound like you're the one who's like, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I have 4 or 5 guys take a sip first, and I'll watch them for a minute, and if they don't drop, okay, give me some.
So that's there's also supposedly the oldest bottle of alcohol that was in like a museum, but it turned, so it's mostly they kept it because it was sealed.
Yeah,
it wasn't drinkable after a certain point, but if some GI stumbled on it on World War II, they'd have tried anyway.
Yeah,
I've seen pictures of it. It's like literally the oldest surviving intact unopened bottle of alcohol, and it's like from the 1100s.
Yeah. It's like in what was it, Ghost Rider 2, where Idris Elba has this jug of wine that he has been hanging on to. It's supposed to be like hundreds of years old. He finally cracks it open, and it's like vinegar.
Yeah. Some of the old alcohol that goes at auction, you see them every now and then. I'm like, they're buying it just because they want to say they have like this super old rare whatever, because I bet it's vinegar too.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other one, they did some tests with when it comes to wine, at least with a lot of these wine snobs. And if you put it in the fancy bottle, they can't tell if you substitute in like boxed wine. Most of the time, they've done experiments.
Yeah.
It's all the snobbery factor. They've even tricked some sommeliers, however you say that word,
Oh yeah, you got it.
the wine experts. So, I guess, you get rich enough, you can be a fool with your money.
That's true.
They did the same experiment out in California with Payless, only they called it something chic and said it was like boutique. And they took the same sneakers that were like $20 at Payless and they sold them for like 500 or whatever.
Yeah.
And idiots were buying it.
It's all in the name and the branding and how you sell it.
Probably all of them are made in the same factory most of the time.
Yeah.
Somewhere in
Probably.
Beijing or whatever.
Yeah, some poor little 8-year-old kid sewed those things and for 50 cents for the year or something.
Yeah. So that was a Debbie Downer. So we're going to try to cheer this up. And I'm going to ask you, we try to be civilized human beings here at the Blast and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
If it's only those two, it'd be it would be tea and ice, but the drink of choice is cherry Coke.
Okay. Cherry Coke, the drink of champions.
Oh yeah.
I know I've had regular Coke where they added actual pure vanilla extract to get the vanilla Coke. Is there an equivalent they could do, or does it have to just be the artificial syrup? Could you add like cherry cordials or something to it to get the effect?
There are some places I've gone to where when you order a cherry Coke, you get Coke from the tap, and they take cherry syrup, and sometimes they'll put in a cherry or two, and stir it all in. So those if they don't overdo the syrup, those are better than the bottled cherry Coke. The problem
That was my experience with vanilla.
Yeah, sometimes they get heavy-handed, and then you're drinking pure cherry syrup, and there's some carbonation in there somewhere.
Well, you don't get that as much with the vanilla because vanilla is so expensive. They tend to go light if they're going to not get precise. There was a place near where I went to college that had that. It was an old-timey movie theater that was had the 1920s aesthetic. It was like probably one of the first picture places in the region. And I thought, oh, it's Coke. You get free refills. Yeah, no, not when they're getting pure vanilla extract. And I got that bill, and I had to be like, Mom, can you transfer some money? Because I messed up.
Yeah, that probably got expensive.
And that was a collect call because this was before everyone had cell phones because I was in college. So that was I still hear about that sometimes at Thanksgiving.
The great vanilla caper.
Yeah. I mean, it was my money. It was my drill money, but still, she had to move it around. And then I found the other day when not the other day, I guess it's been a couple months, but I was cleaning out the office because, you don't have to keep paperwork for like your taxes past, was it 7 years?
Yeah.
So I found some of my old LES, my pay stubs from when I was still drilling before I got federalized and put on active duty. And I'm like, man, if I just put some of that money in a bank and let it collect interest instead of drinking it all away, I could pay a couple bills off of that.
Yeah, there's I think all of us would look back and go, I really didn't need that. I could have used that money now, but
I played for a rugby team that paid us in booze. We were offered was it $25 a game or free booze at the rugby house. And we were sponsored by a local brewery. And let me tell you, after you drink it as a grown-up with grown-up taste, you realize why it was free. It was not the best. I don't want to get sued, so I will not name it, but it was not the best beer I've ever had. But at the time, it was like all you can eat on tap, and we had some killer parties at the rugby house, and so it was just like rock on, right?
Hey.
And now I keep thinking if you just put all that money in a bank and forgot about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're under 30, so put some money in a bank. You'll thank us later.
Yeah. That extra piece of equipment. Yeah.
We're not financial advisors, but given the current times, we're recording this in 2025. Maybe buy gold and bury that under the bed or something.
Yeah.
But don't spend it. Save it. That's the whole point. Save it. Yeah. Or Bitcoin, I guess, if that's still going to be a thing in the future.
Yeah, I think the best advice I heard, and I unfortunately didn't follow, came from Reggie Jackson, the baseball player from the 70s. He said he put 10% of everything he made into a bank account and forgot about it. And I wish I had listened to him and done the same. So if you're, like you said, if you're under 30, start sliding 10% over and forget it exists until you get to where you've got gray hairs like I got. You'll
Yeah, it's
thank me later.
the best business advice I got was when I watched when I was visiting colleges, and they were doing one of the business classes happened. I wasn't a business major, but it happened to be one of the classes I sat in on, because you don't really get to pick what you sit on for the general ed.
Yeah.
And they were watching an interview of, it was Michael Jordan, and they asked him why. This was filmed in the late or early 2000s. They asked him why he didn't get into the politics or the racial stuff in the 90s when it was arguably worse. He was quiet about it, and his answer was, because white kids bought my sneakers too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was some of the best business advice ever. If politics isn't your business, keep it out of your business. And that's been my mantra going forward. So it's all about dank memes and dark humor.
There you go.
So you can learn from those athletes. Sometimes they know a thing or two.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they make enough money they can afford good advisors to give them that kind of advice.
Yeah, that probably plays a part.
So, all right. So how getting us back on track to the sci-fi and the fantasy, how did you discover your love of speculative fiction?
That's a good one. It's kind of a long-winded answer, but it'll make sense, I hope, at the end. Growing up as a kid, my family business was drilling, and we were all over the country. And it was not uncommon for me to go to school one morning, and by the time I got home, we were packing up to go to wherever the business dictated we had to go. So to get there, you had to ride in the back seat of the car for a day, 2, 3, however long it took to get there. And not a whole lot to do back then. We didn't have the Game Boys. We didn't have the devices that kids have today. So I got in the habit of taking a notebook and a pencil or a pen and just kind of writing my own little stories. And you do that long enough, and it kind of sinks in, and start doing that. And back in 1985, I applied for a job with a comic book company in Texas, to be a writer for a new comic book series they were going to do. And for whatever reason, they hired me. And with absolutely no experience whatsoever, I dove into this thing and enjoyed writing the scripts for the first 2 editions of Sea Dragon. Even though I kind of got sidetracked and went into newspapers, always, have the story ideas that would come, and I would kind of jot them down and save them, put them on computer once that became an option. And then when I got done with newspapers and decided to go back into writing fiction, it felt natural. And just to create these new worlds and these new people, and create things that they had to deal with, and how they would deal with them, and push forward and get to a resolution. It just kind of built slowly and slowly, uh, to where, now that's what I do. I can be the book we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. It came about because I had a basic idea of a story idea, didn't really have the specifics, so I just kind of set it off to the side. And another author and I were talking one day, and a comment she made and a response I made, and all of a sudden there was the whole story that couldn't figure out earlier. It just popped in. So I enjoy that. That is, to me, it's fun to work out these new stories, and to discover the characters, and to kind of discover where they're going to take me, because I do have a general outline when I write, but I never strictly follow it. I have a starting point. I know where I want to end up, and then I'm kind of along for the ride with the characters as we figure out how we're going to get there.
I need a plan. Like I outline the heck out of stuff.
Yeah. I have a basic, I have this chapter, I want this to happen. This chapter, I want this to happen. This chapter, I want this. And then there's room there for me to throw some other stuff into the mix, and kind of help the story along, but also to get some other things going, and other characters to bring in, and the reason why they can be brought in or should be brought in. So I'm not a strict outliner, but I do want a general sense of where I'm going and how I want to get there. And then you just kind of stay open minded and flexible enough to realize as you get to a point in the story that, do this instead and it'll go this way. And then, you're still heading where you want to go, but it's slightly little different detour you're going to take to get there.
Now that is, I do. I am willing to be flexible with the schedule if something cool or one little twist of the wording makes something not quite work.
Yeah.
And you definitely got to leave room for the rule of cool.
Well, there's a character in this book that is at the end of the book that was never in the original outline, was never originally thought of, didn't even become a possibility till midway writing the book. And the character brought the character in, and they just kind of hung around. So you never know.
Do you still have any of the books that you wrote for traveling?
For which one?
The notebooks that you wrote in when you were traveling?
God. I know I have the original script because I hand wrote the original script for Sea Dragon 1. I've got that somewhere. I don't know that I have all of them. I probably have one or two here and there, but when you move around so much, stuff gets lost. We had a flood at one location that took out a lot of my old stuff. So I don't know. I probably have a couple of things, but I'd say a lot of it, I wouldn't even be able to recall what I wrote.
I did. When we were doing the traveling, we had the Game Boy or the books. The Game Boy didn't have lights, so that only lasted until it started getting not even dark, just dim, because it didn't have any backlight. So if it just started getting a little bit like overcast, it was just like, nope, you're done.
Yeah.
You also had it wasn't a Game Boy. It was almost like a Game Boy, but it only had one game that you played, and it was like a little pixel thing that would go through. And so we had the Paperboy game that we would do. I never beat that one. And of course the little handheld Space Invaders.
Yeah. Well, I had toward the end of our traveling all over God's country, I had the handheld football and baseball.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that, I would save that for at night when you couldn't see what you were writing in the notebook anymore. So yeah, I toward the end I had that, but in the early part of the 70s, it was just the notebook. And when it got dark, you just, curled up and went to sleep and waited for the light to come back.
So when it would get dark, the stepdad would I was absolutely convinced the car would explode if I turned any light source on at night. Like he was that way. Like, no, turn it off or I'm going to wreck.
Yeah. I think our cars, I don't ever remember there being a backlight. You had the hood light up on the ceiling rather.
No, I'm thinking like flashlights or like the light from electronics.
I never even considered that. So don't know why it never occurred to me, but yeah, probably would have been a good solution.
We used to bury ourselves under a blanket or covers and sweat and almost die of dehydration. But we had our flashlight and we read a few more chapters. We had to want it when we read back in the day.
There you go. There you go.
So you've always enjoyed writing and reading. Writing the stories, but how did you get into the reading and the consuming side of it?
According to my parents, I started reading when I was 3.
Okay.
I do not remember reading that early, but I kind of believe them because I do remember 1969 when I was 5, and that will tell you all how old I've gotten. I would always have a book with me, and some of them were probably for readers who were much older than 5, but I was reading them and understanding them. And then when I got into the first grade, and they hand out back in the day, it was, Dick and Jane, see Dick run, see Jane run, see Dick run up the hill, that kind of stuff. And I'm reading that going, oh, this is boring. And so they decided to check and see what my reading level was. And I think it was 3rd grade. So they actually started giving me the third grade books to read. So I kind of believe my parents when they tell me I was an early reader, and it stayed with me. Um, I especially when you're traveling to where I had 1 year where I was in 3 different schools.
Makes it hard to make friends.
Yeah. So, why bother? Because, next week we could be moving again. So I basically became a library rat. Um, it was you go out and play. No, I'm going to the library. I go in there. I just read anything I get my hands on, and I've just never have lost that love of sitting down and reading a book. And unfortunately, I don't have as much time to read now. But whenever I do, I'll devour a book. I finally got a chance to read Jack McDivitt's last Alex Benedict book, which has been out for I think 2 years, but I hadn't had a chance to get to it, and I shot through that thing in about a day. Um, just, I read fast, but um, it was just fun to be able to sit down, not have to go do anything, nothing pressing, just sit back and read. And that to me is my greatest pleasure. So I've never lost that joy of reading. And that may be why I kind of gravitated to writing. It's like I've read all these stories. I have my own story ideas I'd like to get out there and share. So I think they're connected. I really do.
Do you prefer reading, like actual reading with your eyeballs, or are you an audio book as well?
Yeah, audiobooks for me are good if we're driving, if we're traveling. It kind of helps, especially when you're doing long distances like 800 to 1,000 miles. You put an audiobook on, it helps pass the time a little bit. But for me, I actually prefer reading hardcover books. So, if I can get a version of a book that's in hardcover, I will grab that first, paperback second, and then if I just can't find it anywhere, I'll grab an ebook version. But yeah, I want to feel the book in my hand when I'm reading.
And the good thing about hardcover is if anyone gets out of line, you can bop them with it.
Yeah, and as you can see, I'm fully armed back here.
So when I was going to and from college, it was like an 8-hour trip each way.
Hmm.
And so I remember I would stop on the way home at the nearest Cracker Barrel, which was like the one exit up, and you check out a book and you pay full price for the book. But then when you get to the other end and you give them the book back, they give you most of it back plus whatever the rental fee was. So I would, but it was like books on cassette and then books on CD that I would listen to while I was driving. It was a lot of Brad Thor back in the day and Tom Clancy. Although the problem with Tom Clancy is his were so long, you wouldn't finish it in a trip. And that meant if I didn't return it in the window, I wouldn't get my money back.
Right.
So Brad Thor was a better fit because it was just a perfect 8-hour window.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why people ask me how come you don't write books that are 100,000 words or more. And it's like, because my comfort zone is between 50 and 70, and I want you to be able to get on an airplane in LA. And as soon as it takes off, you start reading my book. And when you're landing in New York, you should be done with it. Because you don't have anything else going on. You should be able to read it, or at least finish it by the time you do your return flight, one or the other. So yeah, I prefer the shorter books, kind of get through it.
I think 80 to 120,000 is the sweet spot for me,
Yeah.
both as an author and a reader. I don't mind longer books, but again, it's twofold. One, if it's a longer book, it's more of a time commitment, and I don't always have the time. And two, I've noticed the longer books tend to be longer between sequels, and I want the next book now. So if you have to sell me 3 at 100,000 or 2 at 150, but you make me wait 2 years, give me 3. I'll pay a little extra just to get it sooner.
Yeah, I hear you.
And so for me, I prefer it. My other problem with that is with my head injury, like my memory is Swiss cheese. So for some of the long running series, I might end up having to re-listen to the whole dang thing to get caught up again.
Yeah.
So like the Terry Mixon's Empire of Bone series, I've listened to it like 14 times because every time a new book comes out, and it's been a year or whatever, because he's doing it between his other series, I'm like, well, crap, what happened? Okay, well, time to start again. And I never regret it, and you get the deja vu feeling, but I really like the series, so it's no harm, no foul. But
yeah,
when you know those things about yourself, you tailor your choices accordingly.
Yeah. Well, that kind of happened to me with the Star Quest Fourth Age series. I wrote the first two pretty quick to get or close together, and then stuff kind of came up, and I kind of had to wait for John Wright to write a couple of his Star Quest books, so I wasn't in conflict with what he was writing. So I had to wait to see what he was doing. So there was a good gap before the third and final book came out. And when I sat down to write it, I had the basic outline, but I had to go back and reread the first two to remember, remember some names, remember names of planets, remember who's alive and who's dead. So I had to kind of get back into it and kind of refresh my memory so I didn't have a complete mess at the back end. There's another series I did, it's Del Rio. It's a mystery thriller, 3 books and done, I thought, and everybody's been nagging me about a fourth book, and I'm like, I don't know where a fourth book would come from, but I kind of the couple of months back kind of came up with a rough idea, but I haven't written Del Rio in 6 years. I'm going to have to go back and completely reread those 3 books if I do this, just to, because there's stuff that's in there that I'm not going to recall cold like this with no pre-existing outline on what I would have done if there's a fourth book. So yeah, after so many years, it's hard to get back into, as a reader or a writer, into a series.
I had that problem. So when we released the box set for the Sleeping Legion series, they asked for extra content to make existing readers have a reason to want it.
Mhm.
So all of the notes that I had put on my website that nobody read because nobody knew who I was at the time, we pulled all those from the website and we put those all, so character sheets, maps, excerpts from tactical manuals where I applied, to the best of my skill set, what I would think modern tactics might look like in a 0G kind of environment. But I also wrote a new short story of the main character, but it had been so long I had to reread all four of the preceding books and the prequel novella, so that way I was able to rewrite this short story of 10,000 words, all for the box set. I'm glad I did, but because readers really liked it. But it's definitely something. I'm with you. You got to go back sometimes. Luckily for me, everything was an audiobook because we signed with Podium and they did a great job. So I could just listen. But yeah, it's something to think about when you're planning for sure.
Yeah.
We brought you here not to talk how to write, but talk about what you're writing. So we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then we're going to talk about your book that brought us here, which we titled the episode after.
Southside thief Kai Fletcher thought he could go straight until he couldn't. And when his last job goes wrong, he finds himself stowed away in a starship belonging to an alien crime syndicate. Forced into servitude to pay for his passage off-world, Kai makes a deal. He helps them rob the most powerful alien empire in known space, and he gets to go home. Easy peasy. Until it isn't. Planning the heist, Kai discovers the Empire has stolen ancient alien technology that threatens all other sentient species. He's never been a good guy, but even he has limits. Hunted by both the Empire and the Syndicate, he manages to get on the wrong side of everyone in the galaxy who wants the discovery for themselves. Kai just wanted to get back to Chicago, but instead, he's become the galaxy's most wanted with his sci-fi thrill ride from Michael LeVoice and Athon Books. Available at Amazon.com and Audible.
That is the one thing that broke the immersion for me. Who the heck wants to get back to Chicago?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
I told Michael that too, by the way. So
why would anybody want to go to Chicago?
Maybe it's better in his sci-fi future.
Hopefully.
It couldn't get much worse.
And I say that knowing that if my sister watches this episode, she's going to yell at me because she loves Chicago. And I'm like, you got dropped on your head when you were a kid. There's something wrong with you.
Although I will say I do love a deep dish pizza. So, I mean,
if it's made right. Yeah.
So Chicago got that right. I lived outside of Chicago briefly. I mean, we say Chicago because it's easier, but in the Great Lakes Naval Base, the housing is just outside.
Okay.
When I was little, I mean, I don't really remember it. I mean, I have some memories, but not enough to geographically pinpoint where the base was relative to Chicago. I just knew we went into Chicago sometimes. So yeah. So if you're from Chicago, we kid. Don't like, I don't know, send us hate mail or anything.
Well, we kind of kid.
Yeah, ish.
Ish.
So we brought you here to talk about your new release, which is Of All the Gin Joints in the Universe, which has a very noir look to the cover and the title. So first off, could you give us a synopsis of this novel?
Yeah, it's basically our main character is named Samuel Archer Spade, and if you have watched the Maltese Falcon, you'll get where I was going with naming him that way. Um, he's a private eye on a space station on the opposite side of the Milky Way galaxy. Used to work for Galactic Justice, who basically the galactic police force. Um, did not particularly care for what he was seeing from it. The shortened name is Galgus. He didn't like what he saw there. There's a device called the Halo that he had found problematic, and just decided that he had enough and went and hung a shingle on a station called Space Station 1964, but the locals call it Norma, and nobody knows why. I guess Norma sounded better than Station 1964. He is there. His official office is an office on the station, but where he actually does business is his reserve booth in the bar called the Galaxy's Edge, which is next to the port where all the ships come in on the station. And one evening, a bombshell blonde in a red dress walks in and has a case for him. She's got a guy who is following her around, and she would like him to be gone. So she hires Sam to kind of chase him off. And the guy shows up, and he's looking to hire Sam to find her and retrieve something she's stolen from him. So now he's got two clients trying to figure out which one's telling the truth. And in the middle of that, the local Galactic Justice inspectors show up and inform him that they're looking for both of his clients for a murder on another planet. And off Sam goes trying to figure out what in the heck is going on. And it leads him into the middle of a galactic conspiracy and some uncomfortable truths about the Halo device and exactly how Galactic Justice has been using it.
So if you were going to use the movie scale rating, because that's what most people are familiar with, what would you rate this book?
Probably PG-13.
Okay. What is it that rated at 13? Is it the crime stuff? Is it drugs?
Well, I mean, there's as one reviewer put it, there is implied sex that I don't get. I do fade to black sex scenes in pretty much all of my books, primarily because me personally, I don't see where they advance the story. So I don't like them, so I don't use them. And secondly is I can't write them. I don't write them good at all. I'm thinking of, we mentioned Tom Clancy earlier. He tried to do a sex scene in one of his Jack Ryan novels, and I don't know how the editor or the publisher let it go because it was horribly bad. So I jokingly tell people that Clancy writes better sex scenes than I do, which is why I don't write them. So there's some implied there. There is some violence, not very descriptive, not very gory, but I don't know that you want a 9-year-old kid reading Gin Joints.
Okay, that's fair. So what can you tell us about the main? Well, first off, where did you get the inspiration for this story?
Well, basically, I've been thinking about doing a detective noir story, and kind of, the setting in the 1940s. But I looked around at all the films we've done and all the books that have been out. It's kind of been done. So if I wanted to do it, I would have to set it out in space. Um, So that was the basic premise, is I'm going to have a private detective in a North setting doing a first person account of the case. It would be out in space, on a space station, and give it that noir feel. Kind of dark. Nobody is pristine. Nobody's, the perfect person or anything like that. Everybody's got a secret they're trying to hide. Everybody's got an angle they're playing, that kind of thing. But I never could nail it down as far as exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. So I've got a folder that's got, I think, 20, 25 story ideas that I just can't nail down yet. I just kind of put down the basics, that whatever I've come up with, and I stick it in a folder and I just let it percolate for a while. So a few months back, I'm talking with an author on Twitter or X, whichever one you want to call it, and she was a debut author about 2.5 years ago, and I had encountered her on Twitter back then. And as I do with a lot of new authors, when they've got a new book coming out, the first one, I try to do some signal boost for them. I try to, I'll repost their tweet, or I'll mention their book, or I might even tell them, hey, reach out to this reviewer or whatever. Because when I first started as an indie, I had people who did that for me. And so I feel I should pay that forward. So whenever I can, I'll help them out. In some cases, the author I meet will catch my interest, and I'll follow them and talk with them over a certain amount of time. Met a lot of people that I would call friend, that I have not met in person this way, but she has a tendency with her posts. Sometimes she'll just throw something out just to see what happens. And in this case, the post she put out, it was something along the lines of, I'm only here to steal your soul. And because I'm a professional smart mouth, I came back with some women, it's worth the price. And for whatever reason, that exchange got the right two brain cells to collide up here. And I saw the perfect way to introduce the femme fatale in my space detective noir story. So before I forget it, I pop open the file and I write it out. And I'm like, okay, got that. And it just kind of all of a sudden, all right, now I know, how I'm gonna bring her in. Um, and then she'll have something she's trying to find, or she's got somebody chasing, or whatever the case may be. And I started outlining that out. Got what should have been just a one-off short story outlined. I'm like, great, I'll write it short story, I'll add it to my Dreams of the Storyteller series, and I'll move on. But then I was looking at the way I ended it, and I'm going, that's a great ending, but keep going and start doing this, and now we've got two short stories. And okay, but then you keep going, and this, and now you got three. By the time I got done, about an hour later, I had 6 short stories outlined out, and it dawned on me I've got a novel. And I'm like, well, if I'm on a roll with this, let's just go ahead and do it. And so I put it all together. Um, I always wanted the detective to be named Sam Archer, or Sam Spade, and the explanation would be that his dad was a big fan of the old noir films and happened to have the last name Spade, so he named his son Sam, and he gave him the middle name Archer because that is Sam Spade's partner in Maltese Falcon, Miles Archer. So that got him, and then the backstory on how he was with Galactic Justice, and now he's private, sort of like Sam Spade was back in the day. He used to work for the San Francisco Police Department, then went private. So I had that, pretty much had the outline, but I never could come up with a name for the femme fatale. So I figured, well, this is Natasha's fault. So I reached out to her and I said, look, here's what happened. I'm going to write the story, but I need a name for the main female character. Would you mind terribly if I borrowed yours? And just named her after you. Natasha Carter happens, that's her pen name. So it's like, oh, can I borrow your pen name for the character? And she said, sure. And so off it went. So, once I had the idea set and once I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do, it was just, now it's time to write it before, and not let time go by and then start forgetting some of the elements that I wanted to bring in. Even though I had the outline, there was still some other things I wanted to develop with it. So, it just kind of took off from there.
So how heavy, because noir, generally speaking, the setting is almost a character, and the setting is minimalism, right? When it comes to because it's the tension that matters, it's the story, it's the mystery.
Yeah.
Did you lean into that with this mystery, this noir that you, as you described it, in a space station, or do we get all of the bells and whistles we come to love in our star, star fiction, our sci-fi?
There's not going to be space battles, which is why it surprised me when somebody said it was detective noir and space opera. I'm like, but there's no space battles. There's quote unquote gunfights. As Sam works his way through what's going on, there's obviously people who don't want him to work out what's going on. So he kind of survives a couple of gunfights, but there is science fiction in that the Halo device, which is a character in the book. And I keep waiting for people to realize it's the primary antagonist in the book is the Halo device because of what it does. It basically, they put it on somebody accused of a crime, and that person has to tell the truth. So they go, did you rob this? Well, yeah, I did. Okay, you're guilty. And with certain crimes, if you confess, your personality, your memories, and everything are completely wiped clean, and a brand new personality, a brand new person is uploaded into your brain. You no longer exist now. You've been effectively murdered. And everybody's fine with it, apparently, except for Sam, who's got a problem with it because he's worried, well, what happens if it's misused by somebody who doesn't have, morals or scruples, and they just want to frame somebody? So you've got that. You've got you do have some space travel because he has to go from the station to a couple of planets. There's some technology, with Elon Musk and the Neuralink. I have a problem with that, and I kind of used the book to kind of show what a concern would be, because in the book, when Sam has to go on the run, it's as easy as him putting a lens over his eye. And the scanners scan the eye, it reports that this is a completely different person. It doesn't read him as Sam anymore. It's whatever identity he's created. And so he can go anywhere he wants to, and this thing is not going to see him, and it's not going to flag him. So he doesn't have to worry about being pursued as long as it's not somebody who knows him, who looks right at him. So, a lot of it is the technology and how it can be misused. And then, the people who are misusing it and their motivations and why. There's a surprise character where you're going to be thinking, is this person really this guy instead? And I don't want to do spoilers, but there's going to be what would be a historical character for them in that time frame, but that we today would know well. And it's like, okay, is that him or not? Is it his descendant, or is this him somehow figuring out how to live 400 years? So there's those elements. There's the technology to extend life to almost immortality. There's cloning. There's the Halo device, that can be misused. There's all the other technology that Sam will use. So you've got that. You've got, like I said, you've got maybe, I think one or two. There's two gun battles. No, three. There's a third one. I'm sorry. But I don't get overly descriptive. I don't get overly gory. To me, there's no need to be that descriptive. I mean, you shot him, hit him in the heart, he's dead. You can pretty much picture how that looks in your own head without me telling you, And I think that helps the reader to fill in those. If I leave a little bit of a blank there, that will have the reader will try to fill that in on their own, and what they will imagine will be so much more real to them than me just, spelling it out in perfect detail. So that's kind of the trade-off for that. But it's it will have it's noir because pretty much the entire book is from Sam's point of view, and he's telling you the story. Um, there's it's not everybody is always happy and everybody always wins throughout the book. There's going to be times when you're like, this isn't good. This is how this ended isn't good. But then you look and you're only halfway through the book. So obviously there's something coming that, will change this. So hopefully, I mixed them well enough that you get a little bit of both from start to finish.
So would it be fair to say you have themes of transhumanism and why that is bad per your opinion on the subject?
I think themes on it, but I don't make the I don't say this is absolutely bad. It's a concern if it's misused, and how do we make sure it isn't misused? Here's an example of what could happen if we had that tech and we misuse it, and we could have that tech in 100 or 200 years. So let's be thinking about it. The Neuralink is close in some respects to what the Halo does. You've got tech that's inside somebody's brain, and they're using that to connect to a computer. Well, how much harder will it be to turn that around and have the computer connected to the brain and overriding? That was one thing I wanted to kind of explore a little bit, is how do you prevent that from being misused?
Okay. So with the noir, like the setting is rather dark. Did you lean into that with this one? Obviously, space is dark, but the space station, you got the Star Trek take on it where everything's pristine and clean. You've got the Star Wars where it looks lived in, it's dirty, it's run down. And there's somewhere in the middle where, it's old but maintained with, like, you think Firefly. Where does the space station in this book fit in on that spectrum?
Not as clean as, say, like like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I would say maybe a little closer to Babylon 5, like.
Okay.
Because you have one of the businesses in Station 1964 is called Mama Cat's, and it's a cat house. And Sam does business with the owner. Every once in a while, one of her customers will try to slide out and get off the station without paying, and so Sam has to go bring him back. So you have that element. So there's I don't want to say the darker side of humanity, but it's not pristine and it's not perfect and it's not clean. You have, when he's on one of the planets he's on, the Galactic Justice building is, cold metal and pristine and super clean, but an area of town he has to go in, a couple of area towns he has to go in, not so much. The house is kind of a little run down. The warehouse where a smuggler's holding on to a shipment that Sam's been sent to, getting on its way, not quite so clean. So I didn't want to have it all dark all the time. I think I set the mood for noir early, and it doesn't really get to. I'm trying to think of a show. I can't really come up with one where it's like super clean all the time, but it's kind of a mix, and I tried to keep it balanced that way because life is, you've got pristine next to, oh boy, and that's what I was shooting for in this universe.
Okay. So obviously the main character is the detective and the location, because it is a noir. What can you tell us about the secondary characters?
Well, the lead female character, obviously her name's Natasha Carter, but she travels under different names. Sam will do the same when he has to go on the run. She is a not so much an art dealer, but somebody who can facilitate locating a painting or a sculpture or some type of artifact and obtaining it for her clients, and not always in an above the board way, but not enough to get her in trouble where they're going to halo her and, erase her personality just to get her to stop. So she's, a couple of inches beyond the line, not enough to get into serious trouble until the circumstances that hit here in this book. You'll have her confederate. He also travels under multiple names. Um, he's kind of the fall guy. He's been set up to take the fall for a murder that takes place. You have two. You have the main director of Galgis, and then you have the local inspector in charge of the sector where Sam has set up shop, and those two have their own agendas, and they're not exactly law abiding, law enforcement people. They're kind of, they've waded into some criminal activity of their own, which they're covering up using the halo. So you've got those two. You've got the local Galactic Justice Inspector. His name is Barry, and he's a friend of Sam's. You've got Sam's old Galactic Justice partner who comes in, I'd say, toward the end of the first act of the book, and he'll play a role throughout the book, kind of like, if you've seen Maltese Falcon, think of Ward Bond's character. I don't know how many people have seen the movie, but he's still a San Francisco cop, and he still kind of works with Sam when he can, and not get in trouble with his superior. So that's Sam's old partner there. Then you'll have a character. His name is Eloy Musk, and he is the great grandson of Elon Musk, and he is the person who created the Halo. And there's an interesting little plot twist that will come along with that, and that's as close to spoilers as I can get.
Okay. Is this a standalone book, or will there be more in this?
Everybody asked me that. It was meant to be standalone, but everybody who reads the book, the first thing out of their mouth, so when's the next one? And I'm like,
good problem to have.
I'm like, how the heck do I know? I don't even, I thought I had wrapped up everything nicely at the end of this one, but I got to thinking about it, and the easy out would be to do prequels, where Sam either still at Galactic Justice or right after he leaves, and all of his cases before Natasha shows up. That would be the easy out. But there's a window of time from the end of the book to the epilogue that I wrote, where I could slip in a couple of adventures, and then after the epilogue, there could still be some more, because there is one or two questions that are hanging out there. If you really wanted to know, I could write that. So there right now there's not any planned, but who knows? I mean, this book was created on a chance comment, and there could be another chance comment out there where everything clicks for the sequel. So it's a possibility I won't rule out.
Okay. When it comes to the crime relation, did the time you spent on the news beat help you do that, or did you have to do some research to get certain parts right?
I think it's because I've watched all the old noir films, and read a lot of the old, Raymond Chandler books, Marlowe and Spade, and I've consumed so much of it that you kind of absorb some of the cop speak, and how to work out a crime. And the Del Rio series, that was an FBI agent, so I had already kind of done some research on how how that goes. So I had that kind of stored already. So I really didn't have to do a whole lot of research on Sam's background and how the cops would act and what they would do. Um, and just the universe I created, really, Galactic Justice is almost like judge, jury, and executioner now. So you don't really have a legal system where you go in front of a judge and you've got a jury. They just slap the halo on you. Did you do it or not? And you say yes or no. And then, yes, okay, we have to do this. No, you're free to go. So it's a completely different justice system that's set up in this book.
Okay. Would it be something that's noir is not normally my thing, so I'm trying to process this so I can ask questions that push the conversation forward without giving spoilers. And that's the hard part when you interview about mysteries, because inherently almost every question you're going to ask in an interview is a spoiler.
Well, I'll do my best to avoid them.
Yeah, because we want people to buy the books and read the books. When it was making the laws, did you lean into the fact that, the space stations versus the planets are each going to have their own sort of jurisprudence so you can get some wiggle room? Or did you go with the, evil empire writ large that is popular in sci-fi?
Yeah, it's pretty much evil empire writ large. I mean, Galactic Justice has obtained so much power that they pretty much run the show, even though not everybody realizes it. They've got their little tentacles into every planetary governance that's out there throughout the entire galaxy. So they kind of pull the strings, and they see somebody who is a threat, they can manage to eliminate that threat, and without getting their hands dirty by killing somebody, they just erase him, and there you go. So yeah, there really wasn't a need to create how the different laws would be on each planet, because it's basically Galactic Justice comes in and says, you did this, you did wrong, and here's your punishment.
Now, I know why you went with the image you did with the bourbon and or whiskey, whatever it is, in the cigarette, because it goes with the Maltese Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Did you lean into that for the story itself? Because I know a lot of modern writers try to lean away from cigarettes because nicotine will kill you.
They're called lung darts in the 25th century. Sam refers to them as a lung dart, and it's not a cigarette like we would know. It burns like a cigarette. It looks like a cigarette. It produces a smoke that dissipates within 2 seconds. Yeah, so it doesn't, fill the air up with smoke or anything, but it doesn't have any of the nicotine or any of the bad things in it that would cause health problems. He only uses them to keep up appearances, because he's like, it's why he dresses the way he does as the old 1940s detective. It's appearances. People, when they hire a private eye, they have expectations of what you look like, and that is what they expect. Is got a glass of bourbon in one hand, got a lung dart in the other, and he's got the fedora and the trench coat, and he's not kind of rugged looking guy, not somebody you want to run into in the back alley or anything like that. In fact, when I introduced the lung darts, he's talking about it. And he's talking about wondering what the real things were like back in the day. He said, almost, with nostalgia. And the line he closes with is, "We used to be a proper civilization because we had the old style cigarettes instead of the lung darts." So it's kind of leaned into it as much as I could. Clearly not promoting smoking, because you're not getting the effects you get from 20th and 21st century cigarettes. It's not the same thing, but it's for appearances. And it's why he sets up shop in a bar instead of his rather nice looking office two floors up on the station. It's all appearances, and meeting that and giving, and for me, it was to give that noir feel to it.
So it's a glorified vape, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. Only it actually looks like a cigarette and burns down. With a vape, it's always that cartridge. But this actually will burn and eventually, burn away.
Okay. So that is that basically you used your own wardrobe as the model for the detective?
I wish.
You mean you don't dress like it's 1940 anymore? Okay.
No, I don't. I don't think I can pull that off. Basically a lot. Sam is basically modeled after Humphrey Bogart's portrayal of Sam Spade in Maltese Falcon. You're going to get a lot of Maltese Falcon. You're going to get a lot of Casablanca. Actually, as the story progresses, you'll kind of pick up on, like Rick Blaine was. I'm just doing my thing, making some money, leave me alone, to, okay, well, I guess I'm in the revolution now. And that's pretty much what Sam's going to wind up doing. He says, I'm just a detective, just doing my thing, leave me be. And okay, I guess I'm going to have to go take on the evil empire.
Okay. Now, do the robots that are pictured in the cover, do robots play a role in this universe?
Yeah. The bar, the Galaxy's Edge, they have a bartender and it's a robot. There is Sam's secretary is she's not mobile. She's kind of like a console unit on a desk, more AI than just a robot. So yeah, I mean they're there. It's not a whole lot of appearances, but they are there.
Okay. Would you want to live in this future on this station?
After they deal with the halos, yeah, I think so. I tried to make it a world where you'd wanna hang out. It's interesting what happens with the planet Earth in this book, and I that's all I can say because that would be massive spoilers right now. Um, but yeah, I think by the end of the book, the world I've got in place would be kind of a cool place to be.
Okay. Is there anything we didn't ask you that you think they need to know before we wrap this up?
Um, no, we kind of talked about how it came about, and I do need to give an extra shout out to Natasha Carter, not only for kind of being the muse, and I do mention this in the author's note at the back of the book, the whole story on how this came about. When I got to the point where the book was done, I needed to do the dedication. It was just an automatic. I've got to dedicate it to her as a way to say thank you. And I always, whenever I get a chance, is to thank her for her part in this, primarily because this is the first book I've written in a long time where it was just a blast to write from the first word to the last. I just had fun with this. And I enjoyed writing the other books I've written, but this one, for whatever reason, it was just so much fun to get into and to do. It never felt like work. And if you are a writer and you can get to that point with anything, that's a sweet spot to get into, is when you're just having fun and you create something like this.
Okay. So this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. It really does matter. So do your part. Go over to Amazon, Goodreads, start a website, leave a review. It really does help. With that, where might listeners and viewers at home find you on the Wild Wild Interweb? And as usual, links will be in the show notes.
Well, I have my own website. It's richardpaolinelli.com. We just switched host providers, so when it does come up, it will come up with richardpaolinelli.online, but just the .com will still get you there. They're working on trying to clean that up. That's above my pay grade, but you can find me there. I have a Substack. There are links on my website for my Substack. You can find me at TuscanyBayBooks.com, along with some books by our other authors. And you find me on Twitter at RD Paolinelli. And I think that pretty much, yeah, it pretty much covers it. You can find me there. Drop in and say hi, and more often than not, I usually say hi back. Unless you're hitting me up with the business deal, and then it's like, no,
He also writes reviews for Upstream Reviews.
I do.
So if you want to find good books, we don't review them. Let me say that. If we didn't like the book, reviews won't get published. So, like, for instance, I had a book review of Team Yankee by Harold Coyle. Loved the book when I read it in the 80s. One, I don't think it aged well, but my review wasn't even talking about that. It was reconciling the nostalgia factor with what I experienced rereading it, and the fact that the digital upload, they like skipped whole chapters. And so that's what the review covered, not even the book itself. And that was too negative for Declan to let me post it. So, I mean, it's not a doom and gloom.
He let me try. What was it? It was the second Dune movie, and it was. And my complaint was that they completely threw out canon right and left in that second film. And it offended me so greatly because I am a huge Dune fan. You do not speak unkindly about the original 6 novels. For them to do what they did was such an outrage. I wrote a review and just dumped, but it wasn't that the film, because the cinematography was great, the actors were great, but what they changed was so bad and so wrong that I needed to get it out, and he let it go. So, I usually, though, I am a positive reviewer, like you said. If it wasn't good, I'm not gonna bother.
I learned the world is too short for bad books, so I just don't finish them anymore. And if I don't finish them, it's not fair to review a book I didn't finish.
There you go.
So I don't do it either. There's dark enough places on the internet with rage bait. We aim not to do that.
Yeah, there's enough of that out there.
Absolutely. So if you go to Upstream, they're on Substack as well. Check that out, and you'll enjoy it. You'll find a lot of speculative fiction that you'll know and love, and go from there. And some of the books will be reviewed more than once because there's several reviewers, and we all sometimes have different opinions about what we liked and didn't like. But overall, again, everything is positive. So with that, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. And finally, we have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people say the shenanigans from Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till it pours out of their eyeballs, and then we will point and laugh. If you want some of that coffee brand coffee, the link is in the show notes. The discount code is podcast grunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you for coming on, Richard. This was fun. I'm sorry for stumbling a little bit. Like I said, this is the first actual mystery we've interviewed, and it's kind of hard to tailor questions so you don't ruin the mystery.
Well, it's first. Thanks for having me back on again. It's fun to be on here. It's mystery and sci-fi. They're not commonly mixed. I think, which is probably why I had so much fun writing it, because it was something I hadn't done before. But I mean, you did fine. Just the only thing I can tell people is just read it, and hopefully you enjoy reading it as much as I did writing it.
Oh, I know what I forgot to ask. Is it going to be out in audiobook?
I have somebody in mind. I'm waiting for him to get his studio back together. He had a problem. So if he comes back online, his voice is the one I want for Sam. So keep an eye out. It may.
All right. And with that, I'll hit the end button for real this time. Thank you guys for coming by. We had a lot of fun. Thank you, Richard. I enjoyed your company as always. And with
Thank you, sir.